So with Perek Hey, right?
Yes.
This is actually one more Perek of talking about the Nefesh Elikis. And after this, he's going to go into talking about the Nefesh HaBahamis. Remember, in Perek Beis, the Alter Rebbe started, the Nefesh HaShenis B'Yisrael, Yichelek Elikay Mimal Mamash. He says, what is the essence of the Nefesh Elikis, of the godly soul that we have? He said that it's literally part of Hashem, and he brought the analogies of like a father with a son, right? The tipas moyachaav, the drop of the father is still in the DNA of the child. It doesn't matter if it's the toenail, it's the whole entire, it's part of the father. Mm-hmm. And then he went to Perek Gimel. In Perek Gimel, he said that the Nefesh Elokis, the godly soul, that is divided into two categories, main categories, Sechel Umidoy. Perek, we said, Nefesh Elokis, godly soul is what? Is Chelek Elokam Imal, is literally part of Hashem, as we just said.
Wants to do only good.
Wants to do only good. It expresses only godliness. Yeah. It expresses Elokus. The third Perek, he divided it into two categories. It has 10 faculties. Sechel and Midos. Sechel is the Chocham Bin Adas, and Midos is the 7 that become basically born. Molidos Esamidas. It's born. And then the fourth Perek, which we just learned 2 weeks ago actually, we learned that besides the 10 faculties that it has, Sechel Midos, Chochma Bin Adas, and the Midos, it also has the Levushim, which is garments, which is Machshava Dibra Masa, thought, speech, and action. With that, the Nefesh Elokis expresses itself, right? When it speaks Torah, or when it thinks Torah or mitzvahs, and it does and thinks, that's the Levushim, that's the garments that the Nefesh Elokis uses to express only Torah and mitzvahs. Now we Perek Hey. Okay, we're starting now. Perek Hey. It's actually Ashgacha Pratis. This week's Parshas Yitro. Yeah. We're giving the Torah. Perek Hey is all about Torah. It's all about how important and what we do, what happens when we learn Torah. So there's a Pasach Eliyahu, a very known passage in the Zohar that Eliyahu Hanavi said. Parts of the Zohar was said by Eliyahu Hanavi. Pasach Eliyahu. Eliyahu, you know the Pasach Eliyahu. In Chabad they say every Friday night. Pasach Eliyahu, and in that he says, hello. It says, Leis Machshava Tfisa Bach. Hello, how are you? Welcome back. He says, Leis Machshava Tfisa Bach. No intellect, no seichel can actually comprehend you. Not comprehend, apprehend you. Tfisa, it's from the Lashon, from the Teufis, apprehend. So we have to understand this wording. The word that Eliyahu Hanavi says, Leis machshava tfisa bach, that no intellect can actually apprehend Hashem. What does that mean, apprehend? You can say, mevin oisach, comprehend, understand Hashem. What does that mean, apprehend? Another thing we have to understand, that every morning we say, these are the things that don't have a limit, and then the Braisa says a couple of things, and then at the end it says, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. We learned 2 weeks ago, last chapter in Perek 4, that every time a Yid does a mitzvah, that is the connection to Hashem, right? Because we said emotions is very nice, but emotion is only good after you do the actual mitzvah. When you do the actual mitzvah, you can't stay home, do nothing all day, and say, I have emotions to Hashem, I'm emotional to Hashem, and I feel Hashem in my heart. That doesn't work. You have to, Hashem said, put on tefillin. You have to go out there and put on tefillin. You have to do His mitzvahs, His 613 commandments, because that's the only way to connect to Him, because He's infinite and we're finite. So the question is, why do you think that Talmud Torah is also a mitzvah? Why is this connected to Kulam? Why is this not just like another mitzvah? I'm putting on a mezuzah, I'm putting on tefillin, why does Talmud Torah is more? What do you guys think? Why would Talmud Torah be more?
Because Talmud Torah is teaching the whole mitzvot, all the mitzvot together. That's Talmud Torah actually.
So you're saying that learning the mitzvot. But
without this, you don't know what to do.
So you're saying, so saying Godel Talmud shemivili de matzah. He says good to learn because that's what's going to bring you to do, because you're going to know how to do.
Get closer.
לא אמר חסיד.
But, huh? Right, so part of the mitzvah that we have to, it says, you have to learn. But what you're saying,
It doesn't say you have to learn only halachas.
halacha is right,
You
correct.
can learn just Gemara and it's the same thing.
But you have to know. Right. Halacha has. We're going to learn more about this. Actually, learn more. It's right, but we have to learn halacha because you have to know how to do. Like he says, Gadol Torah Shemev, Gadol Talmud Shemev L'Dei Masav. But what you're saying, Gadol Talmud Shemev L'Dei Masav, only proves the opposite. Think about this. If I tell you that it's very important for you to learn because you should know how to do the mitzvahs, that means which one is important? The doing, because so why is Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? So this is what Eliyahu Navi was saying in the Zohar. That's what this chapter is, Talmud Torah. And this is, like I said before, Ashgacha Pratis, that this week comes out with Matan Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving the Torah. And we're going to see here how strong of a bond, a connection with us, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu happens when we learn Torah. Okay? And we're going to say, and it doesn't really matter what you learn. And that's a very important point. Because some people will say, what do I need to learn this and this? Shosha Nagach Sapara, there was an axe, and I don't have any of that involvement anymore. I'm gonna learn whatever I need to do, my routine. It doesn't work like that. Because you don't just learn to know, or you don't just learn to be a dayan. If somebody learns Torah just because he has a job, a position, let's say somebody has a proposition to be a rabbi, a rav, a posek, a person. Kadam Nachtorbo, exactly. Don't be like that. So we have to learn. Okay. So Eliyahu Navi says, Leis machshava tfisa bach. There's not one intellect mind that can apprehend you, that can grab you. So we have to understand this. To understand further explanation, better understand Lashon tfisa she'amar Eliyahu. The saying that Eliyahu Navi said tfisa, which is apprehend, doesn't make sense. That's what he says. He says, Hine, call, so he's going to explain. Call seichel keshemaskil, every intellect, when he understands something, umasig b'sichle is a muskal, when he understands a subject, harei seichel, toifes es a muskal, umakifoi b'sichloi. So the intellect, the mind, actually apprehends the subject and it surrounds the subject. So like this, when we learn a subject, it's just like I'm holding some object in my hand, that my entire hand surrounds that object and I hold it. So when you learn a subject, your entire intellect, when you fully invested in it with your mind, your intellect, your mind, surrounds makifo with toif and apprehends the subject exactly. Vehamuskal, it's the other way around too. Vehamuskal nitfas umukaf umelubash besoich haseichel. So that subject is basically surrounded and enclosed in the intellect, in our mind. Shehesigoi v'eskiloi. Once you understand it, now you have it surrounded in it. Vegam haseichel, but our mind. At the time when you're learning a subject and you haven't yet fully understand the subject, like so you're learning a sugya, you're learning a halacha, you're trying to understand it, before you took over the subject, meaning before you fully understand it, which that means that your mind completely surrounds it like a hand surrounds an object, but before that, now you're interacting with that subject actually has your mind surrounded because you didn't comprehend yet completely the subject, the matter subject. You understand? Before you understand it, the subject surrounds your mind because it's occupying your mind to make him understand. Good? Derech moshel. It's just like an analogy, a moshel, when a person is trying to understand and comprehend clearly some halacha some, halacha is the laws. The Mishnah, the Gemara in Mishnah, the Gemara Shura al very well. His mind basically apprehends and surrounds it. And his mind is also enclosed in it. He says this halacha this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will and wisdom. This is exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. When Reuven will argue this, and Shimon will argue that, how many times in Gemara we see these scenarios that we can say it's far-fetched. It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. So again, this is exactly what he says. He says, but because this is what Hashem wanted, this is Hashem's will, and you learning it, now you're becoming part of Hashem. And when Reuven is going to argue this argument and Shimon is going to argue that argument, so the psak, meaning the final litigation will be whatever the halacha is, and even though it's never going to come to actuality, and never. It's never going to come to actual court case, all these arguments, but because still, because this is what Hashem came up with, this is what Hashem's will, if this is what Hashem wanted, that if this person argues like that, and this person argues like that, this is how the psak is going to be. So that means that person, he's not just learning because it's comfortable for him, it's a subject that he wants to know what to do. It's a subject that may never have to do anything with this subject in his life. But he's learning it. Why? Because he knows this is Allah b'retzayna shekach Allah b'retzayna shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is Hashem's will. We're finite people. We don't understand everything. We can understand barely a drop in the ocean. So when a person understands and knows and come to fully understand this law, the halachic, in the poskim or Gemara Mishnah, so that person basically comprehends, grasps, and surrounds what? So now when you're learning this subject, this idea, your mind surrounds what? It's not a subject only. You know now that this is the will and wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. There's no other way. So Eliyahu Hanavi says, Leis machshava tfisa bach. There's not one machshava that could actually apprehend you. The only way to apprehend Hashem is Hashem said how to do it. How? He says, learn my wisdom, learn my Torah, which is what? Torah. It's all these halachas. Reuven toyen kach, Shimon toyen kach, apsaku kach. When I learn it and I fully understand it, that's the strongest bond. That my mind surrounds the subject, like my hand surrounds an object, and the subject surrounds me like an object will surround, let's say, my hand. He says it's the strongest bond that you can never have like this in physical life. Never. Even with a mitzvah. You can go out and you can put on 100 people tomorrow tefillin. You're going to put 100 people, they never put tefillin. Wow. Mitzvahs. Unbelievable mitzvahs. So comes Sunday, what changed from you? Yeah, you have the mitzvahs. What changed in you, inside of you? What changed? Nothing, because it's an external. But when you learn Torah and you understand it, you become now a different person. Because yesterday you didn't know this. And that's the wisdom of Hashem. So now today you know this, you become one with Hashem's wisdom. That's where he put himself in. So that's why it's a very strong bond. The less machshava tfise bei v'loy b'retzayne v'chachmas, because no mind, no intellect could apprehend him grasp him, not even his will and his wisdom, but the only way with the way he said it should be. The only way, the only way is when it's enclosed in those halachos which are put up for us. And again, it's Mishnah, Gemara. We're not just talking about. Of course, we have to know halachos, but we're not just talking about. I'm just going to open up a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch and I have a good day, or vice versa. No, we have to learn this Gemara, Mishnah Gemara, everything. The Gam Sichle Melubush Behem, and at the same time, it's a very strong bond. His intellect is surrounded and clothed by the subject. And this is a very, very strong unity. Yichud nifla. There's no such unity. Not one thing in Gashmius, in physical world, in physical realms, you can never get the same type of unity. Never. Because again, even two people holding hands, it's unity, it's strong, it's very bond. Tomorrow, they're not going to be holding hands. That's gone. It's gone. It's gone. But when you digest something, a subject, and you have it in you, you are now you have that in you. You are now a different person than what you was forever. To be mamish one, to be literally one from all sides. And this is a very distinctive, great, wonderful superiority. When you know Torah, I'll call mitzvahs masiyas. It's greater than all the mitzvahs that you do physically. And even in the mitzvahs that has to do with saying. Even Talmud Torah shebedibur. As we learned here a couple of weeks ago, there is a way to learn Torah only bedibur. Because if somebody opens a chumash and he doesn't understand he is yoitze, he is fulfilling the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. However, the Alter Rebbe says it's not the same effect when someone understands what he learns, because as we said before, the mind completely surrounds the subject. Because when you're talking about the mitzvahs of speech and action, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Malbishes HaNefesh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, basically, Hashem is enclosed, envelopes the nefesh, the soul, umakifa, and surrounds him, or Hashem, from the light of Hashem. Yes, when a person does a mitzvah, the or Hashem is surrounding from head to toe. But when someone knows Torah, not only that the intellect is enclosed in the wisdom of Hashem, Hashem's wisdom is inside him, it becomes one with him. Whatever the intellect, whatever the mind could comprehend and apprehend and basically grasp and surround in his mind. Whatever he can understand. Every single individual, according to his own mind. Not everyone is born with the same mind, and not everyone, as we said in previous chapters, has the same neshama source, soul source, because there's 4 parts of the Torah. There's pardes. It's pshat, remes, drush, sod. You have the regular pshat, and you have the secrets of the Torah, and then you have So not every single person can understand the same. It's like this analogy that we gave here in previous times when 2 people were given a big forest. They are day workers. For one day, they took 2 people and they put them in the forest, a big forest. They need firewood. They told them to chop all firewood. So for one person, they gave them a huge gasoline chainsaw. Yeah, woo, good one. And the other person, they gave him a handsaw. And they said, at the end of the day, we'll come collect the firewood. So this guy with the chainsaw, one after the other, cut out whatever many trees he could. And the guy with the handsaw finished 2. Right? At the end of the day, finished 2. So the guy with the chainsaw comes up to him when they finish the day. How many did you cut over there? Yeah. Yeah, what is this guy? This guy is an idiot. Why is this guy an idiot? Because he was given a handsaw. He was given a chainsaw. Well, what we're trying to say is every person has been given whatever his mind can understand and whatever his neshama can get. That doesn't mean that a person has to now sit and know everything Baal Peh and learn everything that he can't understand. No, but Torah is given for everyone. That's what he's trying to say. Exactly. Everybody has their own part. So now, Lefi should be. You see where we're up to? Lefi should be Yedias Torah, and now because of that, because of the knowing of the Torah melubeshes beneficial Adam. Now that we know that the Torah is literally enclosed in the soul of the person, v'sichloi, and in his intellect, umekefes b'seicham, and it surrounds them, lochen nikas b'shem lechem umazon hanefesh. In other places, and in Kabbalah, the Torah is called bread and food for the neshama, because what does food do to us? Because food gives us sustenance. It turns to be part of our flesh and blood. When you eat, that's nutrients. That's very important to eat healthy, right? So don't look at me. I'm not a good example, but I try to be. What happens is, why it's so important? Because it doesn't just go in one side, it comes out from the other side. It actually becomes part of us. So the Torah, now that we know that the Torah becomes part of us, becomes the bread and the food, and it becomes part of us. Now at the dot, ki kmo sha'alechem. You see at the dot, ki kmo sha'alechem? Ki kmo sha'alechem. Hagashmi, just like the physical bread. Zones aguf sustains the body. K'shemachnisoi b'seichoi v'kirvei mamash. When he puts it inside, meaning he eats it, he puts inside of him, literally, v'neh pachsham liyois damu v'asor kivtzaroi, and it turns to be flesh and blood like him. That's what happens to the bread. And this is how it's going to be sustained afterwards. Kach, the same way, same way happens. The kach the same way with the knowledge of Torah, v'asagasa, when you comprehend the nefesh adam and the soul of the person, shalom da heitev v'iyun, when he really concentrates very well in the Torah, sichloi ad shenispeses b'sichloi misachedes imoy, until it becomes it becomes grasped, part of him, exactly. But that's why v'hoyu la'chodim, and it becomes one. Nase mazen hanefesh v'chaim b'kirba mechaya chaim. What kind of life is he getting now? Chaya chaim, the source of life, the source of all lives. Who is the source of all lives? Who gives life to mosquitoes? Who gives life to us? It's not a battery, right? It's chaya chaim. It's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ein Zav Baruch Hu. Hamelubesh b'chachmasoi. He's so huge, so awesome, and so big. Where does he put himself? In his Torah. That's why he gave us the Torah. This week's Pasha is giving us the Torah. This is what David HaMelech said in Tehillim. Your Torah is in my innards, is in my intestines. It's inside of me. Like brought down in the Sefer Etz Chaim from Chaim Vital. Shelevushe haneshama is began Eden. The levushe haneshama, there's going to be garments in Gan Eden for the neshama hena mitzvahs. Which clothing? What does the clothing do? As we discussed a couple of times, one of the things that the clothing does, it protects us. It's a protection. So in Gan Eden, we're going to be revealed to us a ray of something that we don't understand. It's a powerful ray from the Ziva Shechina. It's called from the Shechina, from Hashem. So it's like a vaccination. What is a vaccine? A vaccine, they take a little bit of that and they put it in the person. So when he gets Chaz v'Shalom, if he needs to get, he's exposed. So these garments, the mitzvahs that we do in this world are the garments for the neshama in Olam Haba, in Gan Eden, that's going to protect us. V'atoira, and the Torah, he hamazon la neshamas she'aska ba'olam hazeh b'Torah lishma, and the Torah gives us the food. It's going to be sustaining us. It's going to make us part of life in the world to come when someone learns lishma. And since what's Torah lishma? What does that mean lishma? Torah lishma. How do you say that in English? Engage in Torah for its own sake. Because, like I said, somebody has a job proposition saying, "Oh, listen, we need you to be a rabbi in, I don't know, Panama, whatever. We need a rabbi over there. We need a rav, $350,000 a year. Don't worry, we'll give you an apartment lease." Okay. So I need to know. People are going to ask me questions, right? I need to know what to answer. So I'm going to sit down, just like a person, lahavdil, going to college, and he knows what to do in whatever. I'm going to learn Torah. Okay, it's mitach shaloi lishma ba lishma 100%. Yeah, of course. But does the person do it because he wants to connect with Hashem, and he understands that the only way to connect to Hashem is when he learns Torah? It doesn't matter so much that this subject scenario is never going to show up. Meaning, how many times in the Gemara we see that this scenario, that scenario, it never happened. It's never going to happen. What is scenarios? Yeah, both people coming to Bezdin. Hey, this is mine. Who does this, right? But this is the wisdom of Hashem. So a person thinks, but I'm learning because I am now connecting. I'm becoming one with Hashem, right? That's lishma. That what means lishma? What means for its own sake? To bind himself, to make him one with Hashem. Through the understanding, comprehension of Torah. Ish kefi sichloi. Again, every person according to his own mind. Not everyone has the same powerful gasoline chainsaw. Yeah, somebody has a handsaw. It's not a funny joke. This is how much he can do. Okay, v'hamazon he bechinas or penimi v'alavushim bechinas makifim. This is something in Kabbalah that, as we said before, the mitzvah is more of an external thing. Like I said, like Avi's going to go out tomorrow and put on 100 people tefillin, right? And I'm sure, and he's at least going to look for them, right? And then Sunday comes. What changed him? Of course, he has mitzvahs. Nothing. Because it's an external part. But when Avi goes tomorrow and he learns something, now that learning is part of him. It's not separable. So it's inside. Bechinas or pnimi, v'alevushim bechinas makifim. That's what it says. This is why our Chazal say, now back to the Braisa that we say every morning, Shetalmud Torah shakul keneged kol mitzvahs. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Shetalmud Torah shakul keneged kol mitzvahs. Talmud Torah is combined all the mitzvahs. Why? Lefisha mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs, and levushim levad, are just garments, which is again an external part. A garment is an external part. The Torah, it's not only, it's himozain vegam levush. It's also internal and external. It surrounds you. La nefesh hamaskeles, to the mind that understands it. Shemislabish bo beiyuna v'limuda, when it's enclosed in him when he learns it. The kolshken keshemoitzi bepiv bedibur. And especially, it's very important what he's saying here. It's very important that when we're learning, to say it with the words. It's very easy to get caught up when you're looking at a sefer, and it's like reading it with your mind only. You have to make sure, you have to hear yourself, yeah. And as a matter of fact, yeah, have a dibur. But even if for yourself, say it. Don't read it as like, why? As a matter of fact, when you say Birchas HaTorah every morning, before you say Birchas HaTorah, you're not allowed to learn, right? We know this. You're not allowed, but you're allowed to think about Torah. That means I can really think. So it goes to show the dibur saying is actually a big effect. Okay. The hevel adibur, meaning the breath of the speech, becomes a light that completely surrounds the person, as it says in Sefer Pri Etz Chaim. So this chapter now explained for the Nefesh Elokis what happens when you learn Torah versus doing mitzvahs. Learning Torah is also part of the mitzvahs. That's why he said, when you learn Torah, not only we have the clothing, which is the external part, we also have the mazon, which is like the food that becomes one with us, and that is a very strong unity with Hashem, that it's inseparable, and there's no other unity like that in the physical realms. There's no such a thing as two people are going to be one. Like I said, they're going to hold hands, they're going to hug each other very strong, but tomorrow they're not going to do it. That's separated. That's it. But when someone learns the subject of where Hashem put himself, which is the Torah, that becomes in him, part of him, and surrounds it, and at the same time, the Torah surrounds the person himself. Yeshikoyach.
Thank you.
This is Perek Hey.
Beautiful.